I never thought life could flip so quickly. One moment, I was buried under piles of textbooks and gaming consoles, hiding behind thick glasses and hoodies in my cramped apartment, living the quiet, predictable life of a self-proclaimed geek. The next, I was staring at my reflection in a boutique mirror, eyelashes long, lips painted, hair perfectly styled, and realizing I might never go back. My name is Alex. Or at least, that's who I used to be. To everyone around me, I was the quiet guy in the office, the one people underestimated, the one who laughed nervously at every joke and avoided social gatherings. But deep down, I had another life, one I had never shared with anyone. Not friends, not family, not even Isabella. Isabella. My girlfriend. She was the whirlwind in my otherwise orderly world. Vibrant, confident, and impossibly stylish, she had a way of making every room light up. I had met her during a college art exhibition, and she had noticed me buried in a corner sketching little comic characters in my notebook. She had smiled at my awkwardness and pulled me into her world of glamour and parties, and I had never looked back. Despite her sparkling presence, I had always kept my secret carefully tucked away, my fascination with cross-dressing. Not for anyone else, not as a dare or a hobby shared online, but for me. There was a thrill in the soft fabrics, the delicate lines, the transformation that made me feel lighter, more confident, more me. Yet fear always accompanied it. Fear of judgment. Fear of losing Isabella if she ever found out. Fear of my world turning upside down. And then it did. It started with a casual conversation. Isabella, ever so bold, had been teasing me about my wardrobe choices, or rather, the lack of them. Alex, you wear the same hoodie every day. You need a change, she laughed one evening, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. I had shrugged, murmuring that comfort was all I needed. But she didn't let it go. Come on, she insisted, eyes sparkling. You're creative, right? I bet you'd look amazing if you just tried a little. I froze. Tried a little? The words sparked something inside me, a dangerous curiosity. I had always imagined being admired like that, being seen, not as Alex the geek, but as someone glamorous, confident, feminine. And for a brief, terrifying second, I considered it. That night, alone in our apartment, I gave in. I pulled out a dress Isabella had carelessly left on a chair, soft, flowing, a deep shade of emerald that would make green eyes pop. My hands trembled as I touched the fabric. It smelled faintly of her perfume, intoxicating and dizzying. I couldn't stop myself. I slipped it over my head, feeling it glide down my body, molding me in ways I had only dreamed of. The mirror became my confessional. I watched Alex fade into the background as Evelyn, my hidden, daring, beautiful self, emerged. I carefully applied the makeup, each stroke of the brush reshaping not just my face, but my very identity. Eyeliner tracing delicate wings, lips painted in a bold red, cheeks brushed with a soft pink, every detail was a revelation. And then came the heels. My first real challenge. Sliding my feet into the unfamiliar shoes, I wobbled, laughed nervously, and caught myself on the edge of the dresser. Each step felt like crossing a line, a tangible movement from the past into a future I had only imagined. Isabella returned unexpectedly early that evening. My heart lurched as I froze in front of the mirror. She stopped in the doorway, eyes wide, lips parted. For a moment, silence stretched like a taut wire between us. Then, she smiled. Wow, she breathed, stepping closer. Alex, or should I say, Evelyn, you look incredible. That was the moment I realized the world had shifted. The fear remained, yes, but it was intertwined with exhilaration. For the first time, I felt seen in a way I never had before. And Isabella, her reaction was a mixture of shock, delight, and curiosity, was the first person to witness this side of me. Little did I know, that night would mark the beginning of a transformation far beyond mere outfits or makeup. My life, the geeky routines, the predictable days, was about to be turned completely upside down. Every choice I made from that moment forward would carry risk, suspense, and a thrill I had never imagined. Evelyn was no longer just a secret, she was becoming my reality. The days following that first night were a whirlwind. Evelyn had slipped into my life seamlessly, yet every step was fraught with tension. I felt exhilarated, alive, and utterly terrified all at once. The apartment, once my sanctuary of solitude, now became a stage, a testing ground for this new identity that had suddenly taken center stage. I started small. Alone in my room, I experimented with outfits, skirts, blouses, and delicate heels. Each choice became a ritual, laying out clothes, touching the fabrics, and imagining the thrill of stepping out into the world fully Evelyn. I felt a rush of empowerment as I traced the outlines of my body in the mirror, adjusting the dress, smoothing the fabric, and carefully applying makeup. My hands shook with a mix of fear and excitement, but with every stroke of the brush, I felt a confidence I had never known. Yet, along with this empowerment came the constant, gnawing tension of being discovered. Isabella's presence hung over me like a spectre. Her early return that night burned into my memory. I had to plan carefully. Her arrival times, her routines, even the sound of her footsteps in the apartment became my signals for retreat. Every knock at the door made my heart pound. Every message pinged on my phone was a potential revelation. The first real challenge came unexpectedly. Isabella invited me, or rather, Evelyn, to her friend's high-end gathering. My mind spun with anxiety. Could I appear in public like this? What if someone recognized me? What if I stumbled, or worse, my secret leaked? I imagined every possible scenario as I prepared, choosing a delicate cocktail dress that hugged my curves in ways I had only dreamed of. The green eyeshadow matched my own eyes, and the shimmer of the earrings added a subtle sophistication. Slipping into the heels was torture at first. My legs wobbled, ankles quivering with inexperience. But each step, though unsteady, became a statement, a declaration that Evelyn was no longer confined to my private sanctuary. I practiced walking back and forth, turning in front of the mirror, learning to balance elegance with caution. The transformation wasn't just physical. Emotionally, I felt exposed in ways I hadn't anticipated. Each glance at myself in the mirror brought a mix of pride, fear, and longing. My reflection was both a promise and a warning. Evelyn existed, but Alex was still lurking beneath the surface. The duality of my identity became a silent struggle, the tension between past and present gnawing at my nerves. And then came the first real suspenseful moment, the elevator ride to the gathering. I had convinced myself that everything would be fine, that my carefully crafted appearance would shield me. But as the doors closed, I felt every second stretch. The thought of being recognized, of Isabella's friends whispering behind my back, pressed down on me like a physical weight. My palms were slick, my knees shaking. Yet beneath the fear was an undeniable thrill, an adrenaline rush that made my heartbeat feel like a drum in my chest. At the party, I faced my first test. Conversations flowed, glasses clinked, and everyone's eyes sparkled with attention I had never imagined receiving. Each compliment to Evelyn sent a jolt of both pride and shame through me. I laughed softly, my voice higher, softer, a perfect imitation of femininity that felt eerily natural. Isabella's hand occasionally brushed mine, a reminder of the fragile balance I maintained between her, Alex, and Evelyn. The tension escalated when a colleague from work, someone who had only ever seen Alex in his hoodie and glasses, approached. "Alex, is that you?" she asked, squinting. My stomach plummeted. Every muscle tensed. I forced a smile, keeping my voice steady. "Evelyn," I replied, the name tasting foreign and thrilling on my tongue. The colleague's eyes widened, then slowly, a smile formed. "Wow, you look amazing." Relief washed over me, mingled with a surge of confidence. Maybe I could navigate this world after all. But the night was far from over. In the bathroom, I caught my reflection mid-glance, Evelyn fully realized, yet Alex still trapped within. I adjusted my hair, smoothed my dress, and for a moment, I allowed myself to imagine a life entirely in this new form. And then the sound of the bathroom door creaking brought me back to reality. Isabella was calling my name, her voice filled with warmth, but also a subtle note of suspicion. Back at the apartment, the suspense didn't end. Each day became a careful negotiation, when to be Alex, when to be Evelyn. Texts, phone calls, errands, all were fraught with the tension of potential discovery. I hid makeup kits in obscure corners, rehearsed my walk in heels in empty rooms, and even started practicing a softer, higher-pitched voice whenever I spoke to friends on the phone. Every step felt like tiptoeing on a tightrope above a canyon of social disaster. Yet, amidst the anxiety, there was exhilaration. I felt seen, more alive than ever, and capable of more than I had ever imagined. Evelyn wasn't just a secret or a fantasy, she was becoming my reality. And as I stood before the mirror, swaying slightly in my heels, I realized that the greatest challenge was not the public or friends, but controlling the inner conflict, the constant oscillation between fear and freedom. And just when I thought I had mastered this balance, the suspense escalated further. a mysterious package arrived at the apartment. No return address, no note, just a box. Inside, carefully wrapped, were exquisite dresses, designer shoes, and a single note. If you dare, Evelyn, wear them. Show the world. But beware, once you step fully into this, there's no turning back. My heart raced. The thrill was intoxicating. The warning was terrifying. And as I held the first dress against my body, imagining stepping into it, I knew the next step would test everything. My courage, my secrecy, and my very identity. Evelyn's journey was far from over, and the stakes had just become higher. The package had changed everything. Evelyn's wardrobe expanded overnight, and with it, so did the stakes. I could no longer hide in the shadows of Alex. Each new dress, each delicate heel, and every stroke of makeup became a test of courage. But I had underestimated how fast life could turn chaotic when secrecy and desire collided. The first real crisis came at a social event that Isabella had insisted we attend, a high-profile charity gala in the heart of the city. It was glamorous, intimidating, and the perfect storm for exposure. I had spent hours preparing, practicing my walk in heels, rehearsing casual conversations, and perfecting the delicate balance between Alex's cautiousness and Evelyn's poise. As we entered the grand hall, I felt my heartbeat thundering in my chest. Crystal chandeliers reflected light onto the polished marble floors, and elegantly dressed guests laughed and mingled. My reflection in the mirrored walls doubled me, Evelyn confident, Alex terrified. Every step in my heels was an affirmation and a challenge. Then, disaster struck. A familiar voice cut through the chatter. Alex. Is that you? I froze. Across the room, my boss, someone I had never wanted to see outside the office, had stopped dead in her tracks. My heart raced, and sweat prickled my skin. I forced a smile, voice trembling just enough to betray my nerves. Evelyn, I said, holding my chin high. Her eyes widened, then narrowed. For a terrifying moment, I feared she would yell, call security, or worse, alert Isabella. But instead, she smiled, almost approvingly. Well, I never thought I'd see this side of you, she murmured, glancing at the flowing green dress and the carefully styled hair. Relief washed over me, though I was acutely aware of how close I had come to disaster. As the evening progressed, I found myself drawn into a dance with Evelyn fully exposed, flirting with strangers while keeping one eye on Isabella, whose smiles and glances reminded me that this delicate balance could tip at any moment. My body was moving like Evelyn, my mind racing with anxiety, and yet I couldn't ignore the thrill. Every laugh, every compliment, every sideways glance was a delicious tension, an intoxicating cocktail of fear and freedom. The turning point came during a group photo. Everyone gathered, laughter echoing, arms linking. And then, a sudden slip. My heel caught on the edge of a velvet rope. Time slowed. I stumbled forward, and in a panic, flung my arms to steady myself, only to knock a champagne glass onto the polished floor. The sound echoed through the hall like a gunshot. Gasps followed, and I froze, cheeks flaming, heart hammering. Isabella's eyes widened, a flicker of surprise and concern passing over her face. My colleagues stared, whispers began, and the world seemed to tilt. I wanted to disappear, to retreat back into Alex, to undo the evening, but Evelyn had taken over. I steadied myself, curtsied ever so slightly, and laughed nervously. Clumsy me, I murmured, forcing a smile. Some people chuckled, some shook their heads, and slowly, the tension eased. Yet the suspense wasn't over. Back at the apartment later that night, I found a note slipped under the door. Written in elegant script. Evelyn, you're doing well, but temptation has its price. Are you ready to commit? I felt a chill. Someone new, or was it the witch from the package? The line between curiosity and danger had blurred. The next morning brought another obstacle. Isabella's sister, Veronica, arrived unannounced, bursting into the apartment. She had never seen me as Evelyn, and her reaction was explosive. What happened to you? She demanded, eyes wide. My mind raced, Alex or Evelyn. The secret teetered on the edge of collapse. I tried to explain, but words felt inadequate. Evelyn's voice, softer and higher, came out instead. It's a transformation, I stammered. Her eyes narrowed, skepticism and shock mixing. Every second felt like walking a razor's edge. A wrong move, a misplaced gesture, and the entire secret life I had been building could crumble. The physical tension escalated too. Wearing heels for hours had left my feet aching, my legs trembling. The dresses that had once felt liberating now clung uncomfortably, a reminder that every choice carried risk. Makeup smudged under stress, wig pins slipped, and I constantly adjusted, terrified of exposure. Even the mirror seemed like an enemy, reflecting two identities locked in a silent battle. The ultimate test arrived. Isabella received an invitation for both of us to a luxurious weekend retreat, a private villa surrounded by friends, family, and colleagues. Evelyn was expected to be fully present, fully confident, and fully glamorous. Alex, meanwhile, had no choice but to stay hidden. The preparation became ritualistic, obsessive. I layered makeup meticulously, smoothed the hair until it shone, and adjusted the dress until it was perfect. Each step was punctuated with anxiety. What if a heel slipped? What if a wig pin fell? What if Isabella's sister, or a colleague, or a random guest, recognized the truth? At the villa, the tension mounted. Evelyn mingled, laughed, and flirted effortlessly, but my eyes constantly darted around, scanning for danger. Every glance, every smile from others, became a test of control. The adrenaline coursed through me, mixing fear and exhilaration into a single, intense cocktail. The final moment of suspense came when a photograph was being taken. Isabella leaned in, smiling, her hand brushing mine. And just as the flash went off, a heel snapped. Time froze. My body tilted forward. A gasp echoed. The mirror in the hall reflected Evelyn, teetering, as Alex desperately tried to reclaim control. Would I fall? Would the secret finally be revealed? The cliffhanger hung there, unresolved, leaving every possibility open. The villa had fallen quiet after the flash of the camera. I stood there, one heel teetering on the polished floor, heart hammering, cheeks flushed, the echo of gasps still ringing in my ears. The room seemed to shrink, every eye on me, or at least, it felt that way. Evelyn smiled, a calm, poised smile, but beneath it, Alex thrashed in panic, trying desperately to regain control. Isabella leaned closer, her eyes searching mine, a mix of pride and curiosity flickering across her face. You're amazing, she whispered, brushing a stray strand of hair from my face. Her words should have comforted me, reassured me that Evelyn had passed the test. But the truth lingered, a shadow over every compliment. One misstep, one flicker of Alex's identity, and the secret would unravel. And then it happened, the sound I had dreaded, the one that made every fiber of my being tense. A soft click at the doorway. I turned, heart lodged in my throat. A figure stood there, silhouetted by the moonlight streaming through the glass doors. I couldn't make out the face immediately, but the voice that followed made my blood run cold. Evelyn, or should I say, Alex? The words hung in the air, heavy, accusing, and impossibly intimate. My mind raced. Who had discovered me? How much did they know? Panic clawed at my chest as I realized the precariousness of my situation. Every carefully crafted disguise, every confident step as Evelyn, was now in jeopardy. I wanted to retreat, to curl into Alex and disappear, but Evelyn's persona, bold and fearless, would not allow it. My legs trembled, not just from the unstable heels, but from the emotional tightrope I was walking. The stranger stepped closer, and my stomach churned. Recognition, curiosity, perhaps judgment. It was impossible to read. Isabella's hand tightened on mine, a subtle anchor, but even her presence couldn't erase the looming threat. My mind spun through possibilities. Was this someone from work? A neighbor? Or someone else entirely? Someone who had been following the strange messages, the mysterious packages? The tension was unbearable, suffocating. I tried to speak, but words failed. My voice quivered, Evelyn's persona faltering for the first time. The figure stepped into the light, revealing a familiar face, and I froze. My secret, the duality of Alex and Evelyn, hung by a thread. And then the door slammed shut behind them. Everything stopped. Time seemed to hold its breath. I stood there, in heels, in silk, in makeup that now felt like armor and a prison all at once. Isabella's eyes widened, confusion and concern mirrored in hers. The figure took a step closer, and the last thing I saw before the screen cuts to black was a smirk, one that promised chaos, revelation, and the ultimate test of Evelyn's courage. The story paused there, suspended in a moment of pure suspense. The viewers are left questioning. Will Evelyn be exposed? How much does the intruder know about Alex's secret? Can the balance between Alex and Evelyn survive this intrusion? And most importantly, what will Isabella do when everything is revealed? The cliffhanger leaves the audience on edge, desperate to know the next move, the next misstep, and the consequences of living a life split between two identities. It's an invitation for speculation, discussion, and engagement, keeping viewers hooked until the next episode.